Thank you, Mr. Dedevani and Dr. Abdallah. We now have some more time for questions, so the audience is invited to participate.
I want to ask a question to Dr. Mohamed Hassan. There was the revolution going on in Tunisia, in Qatar, Bahrain, and also Egypt, which was a progressive, in a way, revolution from the people, and I can mention again the countries, Tunisia, Egypt, Bahrain, and Qatar. And these revolutions, they were opposed by reactionary forces, which are mainly Islamic, and they are counter-attacking these progressive forces who are more for radical, secular and progressive, more open. What do you see? Is there a difference between the forces, Muslim forces in this region, and the progressive forces who are also Muslim? What is the, and why Saudi and these feudal countries are supporting also this radical extreme text?
Thank you. One of the reason made me and my comrade to publish a book on the 5 current Islamic movements. There is a very big confusion for the majority of humanity, or the ordinary people and the ordinary woman in the street, the ordinary man in the street, particularly in non-Muslim world, and even in the Muslim world. Okay. The book is called Jihad Made in USA. They can use our language against us, they can use our religion against us, they can use our wealth against us, they turn even our children against us. Imperialism and domination, it's a horrible system. It oppresses its population in its country, exploits its working people in its country, uses the users of the youth and the young people of the working people to go on to die in Iraq, to go on to die in different places. If you know French, I don't know. If you know French and you can read French, I think the answer will be here. The 5 current of Islamic movement. Yes, in the beginning, a charismatic leaders who used their tradition in Islam in the era of imperialist and colonialist intrusion in our countries, in the continent of Africa. 5 patriotic, Islamic, the Muslim sheikhs, charismatic, had fought colonialism. Abdul Karim al-Barbari in Morocco, Abdul Qadir of Algeria, Umar Mukhtar of Libya, Al-Mahdi of Sudan, Said Abdullah Hassan of Somalia, to defend their independence against these looters and intruders. Yes, after that, situation changed. There was in 1920s, 1920, early 1930, there was a Muslim Brotherhood as a party. Then lately came the jihadists. They made an alliance, tactical, sometimes strategical. But now we are speaking about in Libya. In Libya, as in Syria, it is a deliberate policy to use the most backward reactionary element in the name of democracy to overthrow a popular government and bring Libya and Libyan people into this disaster. There was no revolution in Libya. I was in Libya twice. In fact, when we were there and NATO was bombarding, one of the arguments they gave to give you an answer to you, Hisham, a Libyan young man who looks like me, when he was captured in Benghazi, his families live in another place. It is Al Jazeera who had brought Hisham, a Libyan, All his life is Libyan. His parents are Libyan. I met the mother, I met the grandmother, I met the sisters and everybody. He looks like me. They are Libyan who looks like me, and they are Libyan who looks like him. Then we might be the same tribe. They said they captured him, they tortured him, and they killed him. And Al Jazeera showed as an African mercenary fighting for Gaddafi. The propaganda, the false propaganda that the Gaddafi army, Gaddafi bought them Viagras in order to rape Libyan women. I am asking the Europeans who have peace, how is possible they can steal your mind with this gutter praise, with such a false propaganda? How is possible? I have the impression that you can read journals, you can drive modern cars, but you can be cheated easily with a primitive propaganda. What happened in Libya is the worst and the most primitive propaganda against the Libyan people. Is it a revolution in Libya? It is not. In fact, the most reactionary counter-revolution. Libya was one of the best African Arab country as far as women concerned. I was 36% of university students in Libya. They were Sudanese. 32% of all the students in the school, from elementary to secondary school, they were Sudanese origin. 5,500,000 Africans worked in Libya. There was no refugee crisis when the government of Libya was there. Who created this refugee crisis? It is them the one who destroyed Libya. So they used all the means, including our tradition, values, and religion. In Libya today, there is terrorists, divided the country into 6. There is 6 governments, there is 6 looters, and exactly like in Somalia. There is no revolution in Libya. It's a counter-revolution. It's exactly like in Syria. All these terrorist young people who have been stolen, our kids, who are immigrant kids, our children, who are taken from us and sent to go and fight in Syria. Libya is the first country now which produces and exports terrorists to Libya. Is Libya now democratic? Nobody speaks about Libya. I am only appealing to Libyans. We can defend Libya, but you are Libyans. I want you to come to us, to talk to us, to our parties, to our communities, and to explain what's happening in Libya. That's what I am missing. And I'm asking for Libyans, the most active one, and the comrades who are here of the Libyan National Salvation Front, to come and visit Belgium. And me as a person, you can stay in my place. I can cook for you. I can take you everywhere. You can explain the Libyan situation, and we can be solidarity on concrete situation. We will build Libya. Thank you.
Any more questions?
Maria Hassan, she's had her hand up for half an hour.
I'm sorry. There is absolutely no doubt that the European Union has adopted a policy of containment, has done much to negate its human rights obligations, and to suggest otherwise would be ridiculous. But it would be equally ridiculous to suggest that we have not had a refugee crisis for the last 12 years, that there were not human rights violations in Libya for many, many more years than that there was some kind of solidarity between Libyans and the African refugees and asylum seekers in Libya. And if we need to move forward, then you need to face the truth, every truth, and not just the one you're seeing. If you want to honestly come out with things like that, with other people that are going to sit there and nod, that's fine. But if you want sensible, real debate, then you need to speak the truth. And
which is
not true that there has not been a refugee crisis for more than 3 years. We know it's not true. It is not true that refugees were not violated for many, many years. It is not true that human rights were protected always in Libya prior to the revolution. And to suggest that that is the case is also very unfair, very, very unfair on the most vulnerable people,
Good.
Africans, fellow Africans.
I will answer one thing. First of all, you are speaking about a very small group. In Libya, there is 5,500,000 Africans. Secondly, I don't know from where you are. If you are from United Kingdom, it is your country who bombarded Libya.
I'm Maltese.
You are Maltese. Well, it is from Malta. It is from Malta. It is from Malta. The American troops who have come from Georgia and who have entered in Tripoli, it is from Malta who have left. If you are a Maltese citizen, and Malta have been supported heavily by Libya, and you should supposed to be a Democrat and should be.
How can you continue to deny?
I'm not denying. I'm giving you the facts. I'm giving you the facts. The troops, when I was in Tripoli, the troops who have arrived to Tripoli, they have came from Malta. You have to ask your own government. I don't want to argue with you now.
She's talking about something completely different.
I'm not denying the mistakes of the European Union. I mean, God only knows, anyone who knows me knows that
I didn't come here to support European Union. I didn't deny about refugees. Huh?
That you cannot deny the mistakes of the Gaddafi government. To pretend that everyone slept safely is ridiculous.
My dear sister, the right of self-determination of Libyan people, first of all, you have to respect. Libya is invaded and destroyed, and millions of Libyans are suffering. Today, Libya became a very big gulag. You are in a very safe area, and you cannot entertain that. Libya, it is an illegal war happened in Libya, and then we stop there. We are speaking about that. Libyan, the right.
No.
Yes.
You said it's not true. There was a refugee crisis. Had you looked at the presentation, you would have seen that there have been significant numbers of asylum seekers transiting through Libya and moving on in search of
Why
protection.
do you hide about refugees? Libya doesn't exist anymore. We are speaking about the right of self-determination of Libyan people. Why you are hiding behind numbers of African refugees? I am speaking as an African, that Libya is invaded and destroyed by the imperialist forces. That's what it concerns me. There is 6 million Libyans who are suffering. That it concerns me. Maybe your bread is you are getting, your bread you are earning with the refugee crisis. Don't speak with UNHCR. I'm not speaking about that. The refugees you are speaking are Somalis and Ethiopians and Eritreans from the Horn of Africa. And Libyans. I'm not speaking about that. I'm speaking about the majority of the Libyans, about the destruction of Libya. This is what I'm invited here. I'm not speaking about refugees.
More questions, please?
Yeah. My name is Ahmed. I come from Somalia, and I'm one of migrants living in Malta. I crossed by both the sea, and I come here. At least now I'm safe. Good life. I'm going to ask a question, Dr. Hassan. Dr. Hassan, you mentioned Somali situation as example. Instead, you are talking this topic related to Libya. You also mentioned Somalia is full resource of the country, and it's running 25-year war. Can we say the instability of Somalia? It caused the neighbor countries like Ethiopia and Kenya. Can we say that because of special purpose, the country is war 25 years, and these countries and neighbors, they want to, for example, Somalia and Ethiopia. Somalians still, they don't believe that the part of Somalia, Ethiopia is Ethiopia part. It's still, we believe it's our land, Somalians.
Good,
and Kenya, they want to cut part of the sea, our sea, because of the petrol. It's a place of all the petrol they coming. And Kenya, they want to cut and to add to their country. So that's, and my other question is why African leaders or African Union say something or to take action. The tragedy of dying many young migrants from Africa trying to cross the Mediterranean to reach by boat Europe. Or you believe that this situation start Western countries.
Good.
And so we have waiting the answer of the Western countries. You mean is that, can you give us clear explanation, please? Thank you.
I will be very quick and brief. That's why I wanted our Libyan comrades and brothers to study Somalia. Because the medicine is made for them, is made in Mogadishu. If you continue on that, you will end up 40 years in this situation. Yes, Somalia is a wealthy nation. Even richer, according to the World Bank report of 6 months ago, is even richer than Libya. It had 3 times more petrol than Iraq. It had the biggest gas reserve in the Indian Ocean. The Balkanization of Somalia, to conclude, why the British troops now are going, United Nations, that the British Prime Minister in the General Assembly of the UN just recently happened, had asked the United Nations to send British troops to Somalia because he loves the color of the Somalis and the eye of the Somalis? You must be joking. Yes, they use inter-African contradiction. There is a historical contradiction between Ethiopia and Somalia. They had went several times into war. Yes, you are a Somali and I'm a Somali from Ethiopia. Great Britain have divided the Somali nation into different parts and it handed over this land in 1948 and 1954 to Ethiopia. And that contradiction is there. The same for Kenya. The northern part of Kenya, which constitutes 40% of Kenya, where there is a huge gas and oil is discovered, it's also Somali-speaking area. Somali-speaking area is 2 or 3 times bigger than France. And it has 3,300 kilometers of the Indian Ocean. So, more Somalia must be Balkanized. Because the emerging powers, China, Russia, and so on, with the Indian Ocean becoming important, Somalia can play in a very important role. So Somalia must disappear, the same as Libya. To come to the refugee crisis, those who live on that are the human smugglers, which constitute more than $42 billion a year, bigger than the cartel of the drug. The responsibility to whom lies? Yes, lies to the governments of Africans to educate their youth. Africa is not huge populated. How is possible? In Africa there is 2 million Chinese today living in Africa and working in Africa. Why African youth are living and coming to Europe, an old continent, where there is majority of the population is becoming old, the weather is very cold, unhospitable to the Africans, the cuisine even it is not delicious and so on, you can really like to come over here. But why they come over here? Well, we have nice weather, we have a lot of wealth. It is our task of Africans, when I say Africans, not sub-Sahara. Libya is Africa, Morocco is Africa, Mauritania is Africa, Egypt is Africa. I'm speaking from a continental point of view. We have to unify. We have to work our homework. You have to discuss with the Libyans. You have to discuss with Algerians. Then, when we unify and we identify and sort out our problems, we can stand up together against the terrorists and the invaders who are destroying our house. And thank you. I will stop here because the discussion goes far.
Okay. I just would like to answer to the Maltese lady over there. You are completely right. Immigration will never stop. This is nature of people seeking better life. And we can see here a recent immigration even in Malta. If you witness 10 years ago, you wouldn't find thousands of Italians, Spanish, somewhere walking here in Malta. This is immigration. It's okay, maybe economical one. This is the reason, but it shows that people seek better life. There's a bigger question here. Ethical responsibility of the imperialistic era. Those imperialism were in Africa. They sucked the blood of the Africans. And unfortunately, their companies have played a very dirty role behind the cops and behind wars in Africa. The question was, this ethical responsibility, if you want to stop immigration, it's easy, and this is what being said by gaddafi. You want to stop that, yes. You wouldn't stop it in Malta. You wouldn't stop it when they are crossing the sea. You would have made a better life for them at their homes. Send them back, make a better investment, which is really a responsibility of Europe and America or whoever was invader. This is its homework. They have to pay back the Africans for sucking their blood, actually. You understand what I mean? I'm not blaming...
No.
Just close it.
All of my
Close it.
is on the effects of colonialism, the effects of imperialism. Human beings have always moved. Human beings will always move. As I speak with an English accent and I'm Maltese,
Exactly.
I'm not questioning migration at all. I'm not even questioning whether or not Europe should be... What I'm saying is Europe has negated its obligations vis-à-vis human rights. I am certainly not even questioning whether or not it should be the Libyan people who decide their future. Of course it should be the Libyan people who decide their future, with no interference. The only point I'm making is to pretend for even 1 second that human rights of refugees have been respected in Libya.
I tell you,
for
I'm a
3
Libyan.
years.
I'm a Libyan.
Is
Violation of refugees could happen. I will never ever be can say no. There is no violation. Violation always can take place in any place because it's individual act.
No.
I tell you.
No.
During I tell you something. During Libya, during the best time of Gaddafi, because I'm not neither pro Gaddafi nor I'm against him. But as a matter of fact, we have lived with millions of Africans. I'm a Libyan because my witness would be more, I think, reliable. We got millions. They were living with us.
The African refugees.
And we have a comment from Dr. Camilleri, please.
Sorry.
I just want to clarify one point. There is significant evidence, and not only from our reports, because you can say, your reports, you spoke to the migrants and asylum seekers arriving in Malta, but there's significant evidence from a vast array of sources, including the government sources, that for many, many years, possibly before 2002, the treatment of asylum seekers in Libya left very much to be desired. And no, it was not only random individuals who were just acting in that way because they're racist, but it was, first of all, a complete lack of any legal framework which provided for protection. So if you don't recognize that some people need protection and can't be sent back, and you just treat them as illegal immigrants, then effectively you're denying them access to a very basic right, the right to seek asylum. Start from here. But beyond that, the way we call them irregular migrants, illegal migrants, migrants illegally staying in Libya were treated was clearly very much a very serious violation of their rights. Not only arbitrary detention, prolonged arbitrary detention in miserable conditions, okay, conditions which in themselves violate human rights. There are records of people being deported by the authorities to the middle of the desert, which is the border, fair enough, and left there to die, effectively. Okay? There's one court case in Malta, about 6 people deported from Malta, Malta's violation of 6 Somali asylum seekers' rights, very clearly, deporting them back to Libya. The testimonies of the 2 who made it back, the other 4 died, are heart-wrenching, believe me. Believe me. They were deported to the desert and left to die there. Okay? They made it back because the nomads helped them in their own ways. So listen, this is something, I mean, it was systematic and it was very clearly a government policy. Did Libya have problems with migration? Yes, but that has never been a justification for violations of individual rights. Today the situation is worse and more complicated because it's not only government authorities who are detaining migrants, but also militias. Everybody is making migrant money out of migrants. They have become like cattle. Yes? So the situation is probably even more precarious. But I think to even suggest that at any point there was any possibility for migrants to obtain, for asylum seekers to obtain effective protection in Libya is blatantly untrue. I just want to make one point. There were a lot of references made to the lies propagated by the media, etc. I'm not talking about the media. I can only talk about my experience. And I have been doing this job for many years, and I have met many refugees and asylum seekers, including Libyans. And I didn't start meeting Libyan refugees now. Believe me, some of the most horrific stories I have heard throughout the years I have worked with refugees and asylum seekers, then, from the beginning, and now, are from Libyans. I have met Libyans who suffered tremendously under Gaddafi's rule. Libyans like you. And I have met Libyans who today are suffering because they supported Gaddafi. They're both true, it's horrific suffering inflicted by Libyans on Libyans. And unless and until everyone's rights are respected, no matter what they believe, unless and until there is justice for all, unless the violations against everyone are addressed, not only against the people we like, who we agree with, unless there is reconciliation between all these different views, because believe me, this is only one view we heard here today, I have heard so many others, there will not be peace, which is the biggest tragedy, so much for us, for you.
Any other questions, please?
I have one. Sorry, please. I want to ask a question about, I understand your point completely about the Gaddafi's regime and about the Syrian seekers and refugee situation under Gaddafi's regime. But to be completely fair now, if we want to continue this conversation, can you compare in some level the relationship that Gaddafi's regime had with refugees and Syrian seekers to relationship that the European Union, official European Union, has right now with this wave of refugees from Africa coming to the European Union, and what is your opinion on official EU policy about that? What is your opinion on not telling anything on wall that is building on the border between Hungary and Serbia, and what is your opinion on silence of administration of European Union in that question?
Do I need a microphone?
No.
It makes more noise than. I think it's no secret to say that JRS, not only in Malta, but JRS in Europe, has consistently stated that the way that asylum seekers are treated in the European Union very often falls very far short of the standards that human rights law require. In Malta, we have complained, even judicially, about the detention of asylum seekers. Our policy of detention violated so many thousands of individuals' human rights. The pushback, I mentioned one case of 6 Somalis which were sent back to Libya within days of their arrival in Malta. There was another case where a whole boatload of Somalis in 2013 was going to be sent back. You mentioned the war in Hungary. If we go around the countries of the European Union, yes, I believe we're failing abysmally. And as Maria said, we're failing the people who most need our support. People who are fleeing often have faced worse than death. And if people are dying today in the sea, they're dying at our borders because of the walls we put in place to protect ourselves. I firmly believe that, and I believe that as a European, I too must say, yes, this is our responsibility, even my responsibility. And I believe I must do everything possible to bring down those walls and to make sure that the people who need protection, be they Libyans, be they Somalis, be they Eritreans, be they Syrians, are able to access a place where they can obtain that protection legally and safely. Until we do that, we have failed massively. Can I compare it to Libya? I don't want to go there. One individual's rights violated, one individual subjected to arbitrary detention, to the threat of pushback, to death in the Mediterranean is one person too many. So for me, it's unacceptable.
My conclusion, we the Europeans, the rich ones, my party is the Labour Party of Belgium, and our view is that's the same. This 38% of the youth in Spain have no job. The rate of suicide in Greece is highest in the world today. Pensioners, they cannot live with their pension, and in fact a lot of families are 35% of the families in Greece are living under a minimum situation. I came from a very small imperialist country. I wanted to advise you, those dependent European countries like Portugal, Spain, Malta, Greece, Cyprus, and the so-called Hungarian and Croat and so forth and so on. I consider, and our party consider, the European Union is a home of 3 bedrooms. The first bedroom is the richest European Union, including Belgium, the Benelux, the Scandinavian countries, France, and Great Britain. Well, I am in that bedroom, but Malta is in the worst bedroom. We consider these countries are, in fact, dominated by European Union. European Union and the strongest countries impose their will on them. They have no their own sovereignty, and what they are talking about is that they are just joining a club of the rich and standing on the door. I am advising you to think about your own sovereignty. Don't talk on the table of somebody else. Libya was contributing to this country a lot. When there was a crisis in this country, the Libyan investment was the highest one. Ask your politician the contribution of the Libyans to this country. I am not a Libyan. I didn't come to make a propaganda for Libya. But I'm not making a propaganda for Libya. I'm an European African. I only fight and support every country to have its own sovereignty and the right of self-determination. I'm concluding for anybody who wants to read. This is the book, NATO's invasion to Libya. As a consequence of that, it forces us to produce. We don't talk, we produce based on the enemy's document. This is the history of NATO, why it was created, how it was expanded, and what is its objective. NATO, the globalization of NATO, and recolonization of the Third World. Anybody wants to order it, you can order and read. We have not a lot of time to talk. The best book in Libya, from all the books I have read about Libya, and I advise anybody who wants to read on Libya, is this book, Gaddafi's Libya. Is the most scientific book. It's not about Gaddafi. The title is a little bit sexist, but about the history of Libya and what happened to Libya and the development of Libya. I'm not speaking about refugees. The issue we are speaking about the right of self-determination of nations. I'm not speaking about asylum seekers. But very strangely, the human rights violation is the worst is in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia violated, invaded Yemen. It destroyed Yemen. It destroyed $100 billion investment of Yemeni people. Did your government speak about that? Did your journal speak of the genocide is happening in Yemen? Of course not. I think if you are genuine, You have to be genuine to everybody, not selective. 7 months, the people, I'm not, 7 months the people of Yemen is suffering under the bombardment of this alliance. I'm not in favor of anybody. I am in favor of the right of sovereignty of all nations, including Malta. If Malta will be invaded, the first to support is me. And thank you very much.
We have time for one more question.
I don't have a question, but I have an intervention, if you don't mind. This is to add or to say something in detail about the history of Libya as a complementary to Dr. Hassan's introduction. We say in Arabic, there's an Arabic proverb that says, nothing comes from the West makes the heart happy. We have always been a casualty of the West. From the Ottoman Empire, which lasted 500 years, and which left the Libyans in ignorance, poverty, and sickness, to the Italian invasion of 1911 until the end of Second World War, where more than 750,000 people died, where thousands of Libyans were exiled to Italian islands, where the Libyans were tortured, where crimes were committed, where the Libyans were compelled to change their identity, whether it is national identity or religious identity, to the British administration, which took place after 1952, after the end of the Second World War, where the British dominated Libya and handed the country to a monarchic regime of their choosing, to the so-called independence, an independent country where the British had more than 3 military air bases, and the United States had the biggest and largest air base outside of its territories, called Willis Air Base, and 5 other bases in Libya for training and as military storage, to the Italian settlers who owned the whole country, who owned the arable land, they owned the economic institutions, they owned the banks, the businesses, where Libyans were not allowed to walk on certain streets because the Italians used these streets, until the outbreak of the 1st of September Revolution in 1969, which turned the tables on the occupiers' dreams, and which liberated the country from all these forces. It evacuated, the revolution evacuated all foreign forces and bases. it evacuated more than 30,000 Italian settlers and gave the lands and institutions to the Libyan people, where the revolution also nationalized the oil companies, the foreign banks, and where Libya started to play an regional and international role, providing support to freedom-fighting movements in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, till the peoples of these areas liberated themselves from colonization. It supported the Palestinian people in their fight to regain their usurped land. Libya worked to achieve Arab unity and presented for that crucial goal several projects for the establishment of unity among Arab countries, the latest of which was the Arab Union project. Libya succeeded in founding the Great African Union as a prelude to the establishment of the United States of Africa, and sought actively to build the foundations of this project. It helped financially to underpin the launching of the African Bank and the African Golden Dinar. Furthermore, it embarked on a land highway that was hoped to connect the countries of the continent, as well as on plans to form the unified African government, the One African Army, in addition to the creation of economic complementarity projects among the countries of the continent. In the domain of illegal immigration, Libya also submitted a draft for a radical solution to solve the problem of illegal immigration, which entails cooperation among Africa and Europe, together to put in place development projects in Africa so that African youth will not see the need to migrate outside their homeland. Unfortunately, the Libyans did not abide by it. For these reasons, the US imperialism, Western Europe, and the Arab reactionary conspired against Libya and its leader, Muammar Gaddafi, and succeeded in destroying Libya's people, wealth, and land, and in killing the great leader Muammar Gaddafi, thereby killing with him the hopes and dreams of millions of Arab and African peoples, as well as other peoples around the world, in establishing a world free of terrorism, chemical and nuclear weapons, and economic and political domination. Thank you very much.